All right, you guys wore me down. I decided to kick off the stream a couple of minutes earlier. How's my hair? Is it looking all right? I always get a little nervous about this before the live stream starts. Plus, it always seems like a couple of things come up at the last minute that I have to try to wrap up before we go live here. So how's everybody doing on this Sunday evening? Hopefully you're all relaxing at home. Oh, man. Mike, what is up? You're saying I'm late, but by my clock, it's only 5:57. I think I always commit to going live at 6, man. So I'm trying a little bit different beverage tonight. This is the True Nepal cactus water. Had a couple of sips of it, and to be honest with you guys, I'm a little on the fence about it. We'll see how it goes. So I've got the trusty hint standing by. A couple of beverages. I'm all kicked back. I got some of my favorite things scattered around me here. Actually, my little table area here, my workbench is getting fuller and fuller every week. So let's see what's going on here. Let me get back down to the bottom. Alex Ewing, good comment. Alex says, anyone else want to see more bushcraft type videos again too? And he says he's been watching the old stuff lately. Well, man, you are in luck because I have been thinking about that a lot lately too. In fact, I just recently did a little outing where I made quite a bit of camp stuff out of with my axe and my knife, and kind of went back to old school bushcraft. And I think you guys are going to see more of that as I start camping out of the truck more. I think you'll see without all of the creature comforts built into the rooftop tent and everything, I think you guys will see me doing a little bit more campcraft stuff. And I was thinking that it's probably about time that I throw my pack on and do another trip where I go in off of my backpack and do a little bit more of a bushcraft adventure. I'm just trying to kind of scout out, do a little map recon and scout out a couple of locations where I can hike into some history. There's one that I really want to get to that's going to be kind of a brutal hike down into a canyon. It's not very far. It's only about 2 miles hike, but at one point I'll lose about 900 feet in elevation or 1,000 feet in elevation or something in a really short distance and have to hike back out of there. So the other challenge with that one is it's out in the middle of it's a rocky canyon out in the middle of the desert. So I know there's some cool history in the bottom of it, but it is going to be a chore getting down there and back out of it. So, all right. So real quick, before we get started here, just a reminder, man, comments are coming through, and pay attention to the comments, man. I'm pretty sure that the comment section in these live streams is equally as entertaining as my live stream. In fact, I would venture a guess is it's actually quite a bit more entertaining. So I get a little distracted. It's because I'm trying to follow the comments, and some of them get pretty entertaining, but also Fat Matt made it. Good man. But also, guys, remember that if you have questions, throw them out there in the live stream. If you do a super chat, that accomplishes 2 things. One, it makes sure that I'll notice your question. It'll stand out there, and it throws out whatever money you throw in that super chat as a few bucks in the tip jar for me, which, as you guys know, I'm on a tight budget here, so every little bit helps, and it all goes right back into my adventures that I'm filming for you guys. So all right. Well, we got Fat Matt on board, so that means we can probably get started. I see a lot of familiar faces. DMR Dude, Jack Bauer, Jeff, CK Knifeman Tool, Chad. So Chad and I were going to try to get together. I was going to try to put him into this. Yeah, and he can't seem to get connected on his end. So what we can't figure out is how to get us both videoing in, or me and a guest videoing in together. So if anybody knows how to do that, hit me up with a DM on Instagram or send me an email or something like that. I really want to figure out how I can incorporate more people into these live streams. I'd like to be able to bring Chad, some of my partners, some of the guys. I just went on a cool adventure with my buddy Matt out of Bend, and another new friend of mine, Alvin the Texan. And I think it'd be really cool to incorporate some other people onto the show. So, oh, I see a question here. Daniel Crump is asking, where did I get the Gucci Glock from? So my Gucci Glock is a Faxon firearm, so it came directly from Faxon Firearms. They make just a small number of guns. They make an ARAC, kind of AR-AK variant rifle that's pretty cool. They make AR-15 style blasters, and then they make their proprietary Faxon Firearms Glock pistols, or Glock style pistols, I'll call them. So mine came directly from them. It's an awesome pistol, awesome value, in my opinion, at the price point for the stuff you get in those pistols. I couldn't build the pistol for for that and get the things that I got from them. So, all right. Just breeze through these comments here. So yeah, the super chats, way big help for me, and it's a good way to get your questions answered and make sure that I see them out there. By all means, guys, interact with each other in the comments down there. Make sure, obviously, Chad from CK Knife and Tools on here, so give him a really hard time. For those of you that don't know, Chad is actually he's the craftsman behind the Coyote Works Survival Knife 1.0 and 2.0, the large style Coyote Works survival knife and the Coyote Works pup. So I had an idea of what I wanted in a survival knife, and I was able to articulate that to Chad, and he brought his knife making skills to the table, and we were able to it was pretty amazing to see him execute so perfectly on that. I see AZ Hobbies, just quick question here. He's asking, what's the longest I have been out, and do I do laundry? So break that apart, two-part question. What's the longest I've been out? I believe the longest I've done in one continual trip, and this was actually a backpacking trip, I did 14 days, and I actually did 14 days in, not the entire 14 days in the Hells Canyon Wilderness area. I actually went up out of Imnaha. I kind of retraced the steps of a trip that I'd done on horseback when I was younger with my dad. I think we did it in about 7 days on horseback, but obviously it took me longer on foot. So I hiked up over Freeze Out Saddle, went down Hat Point all the way down to the Snake River, traversed down the river a couple of miles and back up. So that was a 14-day trip there. Fat Matt, you are the man. Thank you. Fat Matt is uploading a video right now of him cooking some delicious tortilla soup and racing Watkins Glen. Gonna be weird. Gonna be weird. All right. So I think I might have mentioned Fat Matt before on another video, but he's kind of become a guilty little pleasure of mine. I really enjoy watching his video. He does a lot of videos with what I'm assuming is his son. Is that your son, Matt, that you got on your videos with you on your adventures? But anyway, they just do little camping trips and stuff, but it's just a cool vibe. I enjoy watching him interact with his boy, and that kid's going to grow up to be a heck of an outdoorsman. Southern Edge 13 is noticing the new tin on the wall up there. Yeah, so I don't even remember what I had up there last week, but I've been kind of changing that out. So good on you for noticing, man. But I've got the Constitution of the United States, we the people, the Second Amendment there tonight. So if you guys find cool tins that you want to send my way to come up on the wall there, I think that's kind of become a part of this deal, is rotating those out. Alvin the Texan is on. He must be driving, man. Alvino, you driving, my friend? So I just got back. For those of you that don't know, I just got back yesterday from a trip. I actually was out for 3 days, but 2 days with a buddy of mine, Matt, and then Alvino, new friend of mine, Alvin the Texan. And I got to give this guy props. He's a young man, 6 years in the military, spent some time in artillery, now as a nurse, reached out to me just randomly a couple of months ago and said he had some leave coming up, and asked if it would be if I would be open to meeting up with him. And so I don't always have the ability, the luxury to do this, but it just so happened that when he was coming up was a time when I had some free time. So I agreed to meet up with him, and so we had our trip together. last couple of days, it was a really cool trip. We did some hiking. We found some cool history. It was the maiden voyage of the new Coyote Works Adventure Truck 2.0, Grandpa's truck, or the Coyote Works Adventure Vehicle 2.0. Was awesome. I can't wait to show you guys the loadout and how that all worked. It really took me back to kind of my old school car camping days, back in the beginning of it all, when I used to camp out of the back of a Chevy short wide box pickup truck with a canopy on it. Yeah, I got to say, I think I like the hint much better than the true Nepal cactus water. I think we got everybody in here. Let's get into a couple of things, man. The one thing that I really want to say is, for any of you that don't know, DJ Hobbies, thank you, my friend. Craig, thank you, my friend. So Craig brings up a good point, and this is what I was just going to mention. Before we get into it, I got to say, really dear friend of mine, as you guys know, Josh from Lolo Overland, he experienced a fire, and I think it was actually on January 1st that the fire happened. It happened while I was off the grid out on my trip, so I didn't even find out about it until yesterday, but he lost a lot. His Jeep was inside his shed, along with a lot of family heirlooms and stuff that he'd inherited and been passed down from the family, so just devastating. That Jeep that he had was years in the making, and all of the all of the stuff out there. Oh man, ex Overland, thank you, my friend. Camping Mike and K9 Buddy. Awesome to hear from you guys. But so anyway, man, send some love out there to Josh. Maybe hit up the Lolo Overland Instagram page to kind of check out what's going on. Just really devastating. But I got to tell you guys, having said that, man, you know, as you guys know, I experienced a fire in my vehicle, and it was, 15, 20 years worth of gear that you don't even realize all the stuff you have until it all disappears at once like that. And then you realize that you literally have a lifetime of gathering that stuff up. So Josh lost a couple of motorcycles, his Jeep fully loaded out, obviously a ton of stuff. So hit Lolo Overland up on Instagram. If nothing else, send Josh some love. But I do have to say, man, he's got a super positive attitude about it. I've been texting back and forth with him and everything, and he's just looking forward and trying to get through it. So good on him for maintaining a positive attitude. But yeah, I don't know anything about what caused the fire or anything like that, but super good dude, as you guys know. I mean, that has been an awesome partnership for me. I mean, they've been not only a good affinity business partner for Coyote Works, but they've been my friends over there, and we've gone on adventures together and shared some good time. So that's the first thing I wanted to throw out there. Just please join me in sending some thoughts out to Josh and wishing him through that. At some point, it may end up being a financial loss for him too. So when we learn more about that, maybe some of you guys might might feel like supporting in that way too. So let's just see what happens there. But man, let him know that we're thinking about him and we feel for him. So the one of the guys that follows me on, I believe, Instagram, and probably on here too. Yeah, definitely on here too. A guy named Brian, and Brian, you know who you are. I'm not going to out you for your last name. I don't know that you want me to throw that out there, but Brian Doherty has he asked me the question and so this is one of the things I wanted to talk about this week. He asked the question, what are some of the hazards of camping and overlanding in the high desert? Like the kind of environment where I'm in, what are some of the hazards? So obviously, I spend a lot of time talking about all the cool things about it, the history and everything out there. But he really wanted to hear about some of the hazards. So I thought I'd talk about a few, and some of them are more perceived hazards than others. But so here, I'm just going to go down the list here, and hopefully I'll kind of not screw this up too bad. Sometimes when I make some notes for myself, I actually trip myself up more. So I'll try to keep this fairly articulate for you guys. But so going down, these are hazards of the high desert camping, just things that you have to deal with. And I'll share some ways that you deal with each of these things too. But I would say some of the most constant things that aren't necessarily hazards, but can definitely turn into hazards are the things like the ticks, the mosquitoes, the fire ants, All those things are more irritants than hazards, but they can definitely make the difference between a trip being an enjoyable, fun trip and it being a really miserable experience. So here's some things. I'll knock these off the list one at a time. So the ticks can be really bad in this country, more so in different places than others, like especially up in the forest, you get the deer ticks and they're really bad. But here's the thing about the ticks is permethrin does a really good job of keeping the ticks at bay. So during tick season, so here's the other part of this is tick season is generally the spring. So depending on what the weather does, it's usually when the snow leaves and it stops freezing all the time. Jerry D787, thank you, my friend, and you're absolutely welcome for the content. I really appreciate that, man. Appreciate the support. So two things tick. One is the time of year. So you have this window in the spring. So let's just call it sometime between like March or April and June, maybe early July. That's generally the worst of it for the tick season around here. As long as there's snow on the ground, there's generally not ticks. Once the snow melts, you got to start thinking about ticks. And we stop getting extremely hard frost. So permethrin to treat your shoes. I treat my shoes, my pant legs. And then if I'm crawling through bushes and looking through historical sites, then I might even change, I might even spray down like my sleeves and stuff. So that's the deal with ticks. They're a pain in the butt. I get tons of them on me, usually 3 or 4 embedded in me every year. Or what I mean by embedded is they bite into you, they burrow their head into you. And that's kind of a pain, but usually you just kind of grasp the base of them and pull gently on it and you can kind of tug them out. And I've never had any part of them break off in me, but they can carry some diseases. So if at all possible, you want to avoid being bit by ticks. Mosquitoes, that's pretty self-explanatory. About the only thing during the time of year when the mosquitoes are bad around here, about the only thing that helps that and where they're terrible around here out in the desert, you don't think of the desert as being a place for mosquitoes. But if you're anywhere near a water source in the summertime, they're usually really bad because there's very little water, so they're very concentrated around that. So that's one of the reasons why you guys don't see me camp by water sources a lot, is that's generally where the bugs are the thickest, including the mosquitoes. So going down the list, another one that we have is we have 2 kinds of ants around here. We have what I call the army ants, which are black. They have a black and a red portion of their body. The other ones are the fire ants, which are all red. Red ant bite actually is worse than the army ants, which are the black and red ones. But if you throw your mattress pad down on the ground and lay your sleeping bag on the ground and you get a train of ants on you, they will get in your sleeping bag and all over you probably before you wake up and know it. And if you want an uncomfortable couple of days, deal with a bunch of red ant bites. That is not good. So that's a matter of surveying the area around you if you're sleeping on the ground. And there's nothing wrong with, I mean, a lot of people for a lot of years, the cowboys out on the range, the travelers through this area, the homesteaders before they got their homestead built, and people for years have been sleeping right on the ground. I used to, when I was young and we used to ride out on horseback, we would literally throw our horse pads on the ground and lay on top of those and then use the saddle blankets for a covering at night. So there's no problem with it. You just want to make sure you're not laying down an anthill. The good news is they're pretty obvious to see out there. So that's one hazard, is like the bugs, right? The ticks, the mosquitoes, the ants, but also there's biting flies. We call them horse flies around here. There's yellow jackets, there's hornets, there's all those kinds of things too. And again, in the desert country, what's unique is all of those things tend to be, with the exception of the ants and the ticks, all those things, the bugs are concentrated around the water. So again, my pro tip on that is it's generally not a good idea to camp right on a water source when you're out in the desert. So the next thing, this brings me to a next thing. So we're kind of going through the ground dwelling critters here, the rattlesnakes. There's rattlesnakes to some degree or another in almost the entire range of where I go. I'm likely to run into rattlesnakes. Now, what's weird about it is sometimes I'll go like a year without ever seeing a rattlesnake. But like this last year, I think I've ran into 5 or 6 rattlesnakes just this last summer, this one time. So one of them was actually on a group trip where there were 10 of us that I was kind of guiding up into, a bunch of my friends that I guided up into an area. We jumped out of the Jeeps to go for a walk, and a huge rattlesnake, probably 4.5 feet long, a huge rattlesnake, big, thick, guy was crawling around out there. So the thing about rattlesnakes, and this is a good rule of thumb out in the desert too. So here's a pro tip when it comes to rattlesnakes. Number one is never put your hands or your feet where you can't see first. Rattlesnakes tend to be in the shade during the hottest part of the day. They'll come out in the open, like in the mornings and the evenings. They'll generally try to get out where the sun is. They're reptiles, obviously, right? So they're very dependent on the ambient temperature of the air. They're most active, I don't know exactly. I'm not a biologist, but over the years, it seems like they're mostly active. They're the most active in that kind of 75-degree area for temperature, 75 to 80. Charlie Foxtrot, thank you, by the way, for the tip. My friend is asking, how much water do I take with you? And he's saying that he has a 2-gallon Rotopax can in the truck. Usually when I go out in the summertime, I'm going to have at least 10 gallons of water with me. I'll have a 5-gallon, I think they call them scepter cans, those big military scepter cans. I'll have either one of those or 2 of the 2-gallon Rotopax cans. And then I'll have a couple of the 1-gallon, usually that I buy from the store, the 1-gallon plastic, just because 1-gallon one's handy to use around camp. And then I can crush the plastic when I'm done, and that saves space inside my vehicle. And then whatever water I have in water bottles for drinking. So usually around 10 gallons is the minimum that I'm going to have in my rig in the heat of summer out there. So it's usually way overkill. Like obviously, I'll plan for about two gallons a day is what I'll plan for. And then sometimes I don't necessarily use that much, but that's how much I'll have. So just to wrap up the rattlesnake thing, again, they are out there. I run into them probably more than most people because I'm in their habitat. I'm kicking around old homesteads. I'm looking in rock piles. I'm searching for history like that. So I probably run into them a lot more than most people. The other thing about rattlesnakes is they do appear almost always rattle. So as long as you're listening, they'll generally give you a lot of warning. Now, the problem that I've found that is it's not always easy to tell what direction that buzzing is coming from. So when you hear that distinctive buzz of a rattlesnake, the best thing to do is just immediately stop and try to get a fix on what direction that rattle is, because if you move too fast, and this has happened to me before, where I've been startled by the buzz and I've moved quickly and inadvertently almost moved in the wrong direction, ended up moving towards the snake. They're not easy to see. They're very well camouflaged in that environment. So the rattlesnakes are definitely another hazard. The thing about the rattlesnakes too, another thing I want to leave you guys with on those is, man, I don't even mess around with them, not in the least little bit, right? Because here's the thing is, it's tempting to want to kind of play with them and stuff like that, maybe grab a stick, move them around, check them out, try to get some good pictures. But here's the deal. If I get bit by a rattlesnake and I'm in the country where I am, hours away from anybody else, if I'm down in a lot of the country that I go in, I mean, I could be 6 hours from a hospital, right? And there's no guarantee that little rural hospital is going to have antivenom in it. So I could literally be, maybe a full 24 hours from an antivenom treatment, right? So with the nature of the venom from a rattlesnake bite, I mean, there's a really good chance that I would either die or lose a limb, right? So I don't even mess around with it. It's just too much risk. So don't play with the rattlesnakes and avoid them at all costs. Another thing that I hear about a lot and I see a ton of are the scorpions. But the scorpions that we have around here are relatively minor, right? Their sting isn't much worse. We do have a few up in the woods. These are usually up in the pine trees, these smaller scorpions that have a little bit more venom and can be a little more painful. But I don't worry too much about the scorpions. You will see a lot of them, but the ones we have around here aren't super deadly or anything like that. So, the other things that are big risks out there, and these are just, your basic outdoor skills deal with these. Okay, so Craig, before we move on from the rattlesnakes, Craig, thank you, by the way, is asking, have I ever tried snake shot? CCI makes them in a 9mm. I've never tried the 9mm snake shot. For years, what I carried with me when I was out hiking was I carried a 5-shot Smith & Wesson. It was one of those airweight, like titanium 4-inch barrel revolvers based off of the old J-frame Smith & Wesson, and I would carry that loaded with snake shot in it. It was so light, and it was just specifically for rattlesnakes. I'm going to be honest with you guys, anymore, I don't necessarily always kill rattlesnakes when I run into them. There are times when I will have to deal with them, and you can take whatever you want out of that. But situations where I will deal with one is in my campsite, right? Because I've had this situation happen before where I moved a rattlesnake out of my campsite in the afternoon and then woke up the next day and that rattlesnake was back in my campsite, right? So when they're in my campsite, I feel like I have to deal with them in that situation. Some way or another, I have to ensure that I'm not going to inadvertently stumble across them again in my same campsite. So take that. A couple other things, like I was starting to talk about, like the hypothermia, right? The your body getting too hot or too cold, dehydration. Those are big things in the desert. What I've learned over the years is it's easy to not drink enough, that it actually takes effort, pointed effort to stay hydrated out in the really hot, dry summers out in the desert. And so what I do is I generally monitor my intake. I count water bottles that I drink, or I count the number of times that I empty a water bottle that I'm drinking, and I try to make sure that I'm drinking. For me, I like to, and I'm sure there's a million different suggestions on how much is enough or not enough, but basically I try to make sure that I'm at least ingesting about 8 ounces of water an hour or so. The other thing is you can monitor the number of times that you're going to the bathroom. If I'm going to the bathroom less than once every 2 hours, or if I'm going to the bathroom less often than once every 2 hours or so, I'm definitely not drinking enough fluids. What happens to me was I start to get dehydrated. And I've actually been in situations where I've been severely dehydrated. So I understand how my body works. And generally, one of the first things that happens to me is I actually won't be thirsty. I won't consciously realize that I'm thirsty and I need water. I'll just be out there doing my thing, hiking around. Usually the first thing that I'll start to get is a little bit of a low-grade headache, and I'll start to feel sinusy, like my sinuses are kind of slowing down. And that's usually one of the first signs. When I start to feel that, what I know is I need to start onboarding water relatively quickly at that point, or I'm going to start going downhill after that. So dehydration, definitely the same thing goes for the wintertime, like staying dry. A lot of people don't think about this, but I mean, when you're out there winter camping, when it gets down, I would say when it starts getting down below 20 degrees, 20 degrees Fahrenheit, like it's time to stop messing around with temperature, right? Below that, like you need to make sure that you have your stuff together. Down below 20 is where mistakes can start, meaning hypothermia, even, people die at that temperature all the time. So making sure that you're not getting sweaty and clammy and damp, making sure that you're not getting your clothes wet, making sure that you're not getting your sleeping bag wet. Like if you think about things like, now let's just say it's 0 degrees. If it's 0 degrees and you're laying in your sleeping bag and you're drinking coffee, and let's say you spill 16 ounces of coffee on top of your sleeping bag, soak your sleeping bag, right? Or maybe coffee's not a great example, because if you're going to bed, it's going to be probably not coffee, but you dump a bottle of water, or I just heard a story, a friend of mine told me about this. If you dump your little lavatory bottle, your Gatorade bottle, your wide mouth Gatorade bottle that you use for a pee bottle inside your tent, if you spill that thing inside your sleeping bag at 0 degrees, say, and you don't have a heat source inside your tent, like at very least, you're going to be extremely miserable. So I would say that's another huge hazard in the wintertime. But the heat and the cold, so one of the things that is, again, unique to the desert country about that, this is where I would say another one of the major hazards is I just want to check real here. Charlie Foxtrot had another comment up here. Chug a bottle of water before he paddled out. What size water bottle do you use and how many a day? Okay, so generally what I try to do is about 8 ounces of water an hour is kind of my minimum. I generally carry a 32 ounce Nalgene bottle, stainless steel Nalgene bottle is generally what I'm going to have on me at all times if I'm hiking, walking away from the vehicle anyway. And so that 32 ounce Nalgene, I'm going to say, is enough water to get me through a couple of hours of a hike. If I'm going to be hiking more than that or farther than that away from a water hole, then I'm going to respectively carry more water than that. However much water I need to get to have about 8 ounces an hour for as many hours as I'm going to be away from a water source. That answers the question. So the big thing about the desert country when it comes to heat and cold is the huge temperature differentials that we can experience. Like literally you can go, in fact, I think Alvino, I think we had a time on this trip when we went from literally the sun being out, it being nice, no wind, like we're borderline like out in a thin cotton hoodie, and then like in minutes, within about 10 minutes, the wind picks up, brings in a front. Now it's snowing, the temperature drops 15, 20 degrees, and you have precipitation coming down, like sleet, snow coming down. So the thing that's really hazardous in the desert is you have to be aware that those temps can change on a dime, and so you have to be prepared for that. The thing that you cannot do in this part of the country is you cannot, like, this is such a common thing, right? You get out of the rig to go on a hike and you feel the air outside and you decide what to wear, and that's what you take off on your little hike. Like, you cannot do that here. You have to get out of the truck. It's fine. Look around, the sun's shining. That's fine, but bring some extra layers because that can change in a heartbeat. Also, the temperature differential between day and night is really big. So if you think about this, you take off in the afternoon for a hike, maybe it's in the summertime, it's 85, 90 degrees, but it could cool down to 50 degrees that night, right? So there can sometimes be a 30 or a 50 degree temperature differential between daytime and nighttime temperature. So you have to always be thinking about that. Vaughn Miller, God bless America, my friend. Thank you. I really appreciate that. God bless you as well. So my last point on hazards is really, I'm sorry, I got two more. I know I'm getting a little bit winded here. Sorry about that, guys. So another thing on, is that whole, the weather changing rapidly. So another thing about the weather changing rapidly is you always have to be thinking about where you're driving into, especially this time of year, right? Because right now there's not a lot of snow on the ground, but like overnight, you could get 10, 12 inches dumped on the ground, right? So you have to think about when you go back into a place, are you going down into a canyon with a hard hill to negotiate to get back out of there, that if you get 10 inches of snow dumped on you, you're not going to be making it out? Or how about this? What if you go into a place when it's dry, it's navigable, you can drive it fine in your vehicle, but you have a lot of off-camber hillside trail on steep angles that has a lot of clay in the soil, that if that gets wet, there's no way you're going to be able to come down out of there. Some of the clay hillsides around here, like that stuff's like ice, and it gums up your tread and your tires. And, a lot of this country is level, but a lot of it is hilly and steep and canyon. So super critical thing. You guys have seen videos before, actually, where I have almost gotten stuck out there. And I have before gotten stuck where the weather changed and I was in camping someplace and I couldn't get out the next day. One time that happened to me was because of snow. I was in a canyon up in the forest. There was about 8 inches of snow on the ground when I went in there. I was down in a little draw. While I was in there, it snowed about another 8 to 10 inches on the ground. So now I've got about 20 inches of snow on the ground when I wake up the next day and I'm breaking up camp. And I could not get up. There was just the trail was steep getting out of there and narrow, and I just could not do it. There just wasn't an option. There was no way for me. Now, I got lucky. Like, what could have happened is snow could have just kept coming and coming and coming, and I could have been stuck in there or forced to make bushcraft up a pair of snowshoes and hike out of there, or been stuck in there for a couple of weeks potentially. I got super lucky. I stayed an extra night that I wasn't planning on staying out there. And then it massively warmed up and melted off. And I was able to get out of there just like basically a day later, 36 hours roughly after that snow came. But I got really lucky. So that's something that you always have to be paying attention about. The trails that you're going in on, or the trails that you need to negotiate to get out, are they going to be navigable regardless of what the weather does? So that's really, really critical, guys. I cannot tell you, like, people die almost every year out in the Pacific Northwest. Now, I'm pretty sure people die every year in the Pacific Northwest because they make that mistake. They just don't plan for the weather changing that severely. So the last thing, and this is kind of weather related too, that I wanted to bring up for hazards is wildfires. Generally speaking, every year around here, we have a pretty serious wildfire season. And I mean, we can have hundreds of thousands of acres under fire here. So here's the problem, and I'll give you guys an example of something that happened to me. This has happened to me twice just within about the last 5 years, where I've been in some place. In one instance, I was up in the forest, and I had to work my way down out of the forest through the foothills, through some juniper foothills, to be able to get down to the highway that would take me back into town. Well, a fire started down that draw, and I didn't know it. Obviously, I was up in a place with no, access to information or anything like that. All right, Diamond Divas, Pure Romance. Dana, thank you. Happy New Year from Dana and David in Arizona. Happy New Year to you guys, and thank you. So what happened was a wildfire had started down in the bottom of this canyon. So when I got down there, wildfire had started down in the bottom of this canyon. So when I got down there were actually fire crews in there fighting the fire. And they allowed me to drive through, but I had fire on both sides of the road. In fact, I think way back on my Instagram channel, back towards the beginning, I think there's a picture or two. I think I took some pictures and posted them on Instagram of driving through that fire, literally on both sides of the road, fire crews and things like that. So that was a situation where fire came in behind me. That was my only way out, which brings me to another point, which is, if at all possible, I always try to make sure I have a route out and an alternate route out of wherever I'm at. I'm always kind of waiting for a contingency like that. The second time I had an issue with wildfire was a real similar situation, but I was out in the desert, and the road that I took, the trail, the unimproved road that I had to take out across this wide open flat, a fire started literally about a quarter of a mile off of the south side of that road. And it was in the summertime, but the winds were blowing so crazy. That fire traveled overnight. That fire traveled like 25 miles across the desert or something crazy. It burned all the way down from where I was, all the way down almost to like the Alkali Lake area. And I was all the way up by Highway 20. So here's the thing, that fire started south of the road that I was traveling on. If it would have started on the north side of the road out there, I would have been totally screwed. I would have been caught in the middle of it. So that was another situation where I just got lucky. Like, that fire just started enough to the south that I was still clear to get out of there. So that's I hope, Brian, I hope that answered your question. That's a couple of the kind of more significant hazards that I think about out in the desert country. The biggest ones obviously are, there's a lot of them. I guess another one that I run into a lot, I forget to mention it because you guys see me deal with it so much, but another one is, like, most of my trips are on unknown roads, roads of unknown condition, right? They exist on maps of some era, right? But I have no current knowledge of the road condition. Like maybe it exists, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it still exists, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's passable, maybe it's not. I don't know. So, I guess that would be another thing, is just the road conditions, the trail conditions, and preserving the integrity of your vehicle. And sometimes what that means is like you hit areas where you're like, oh, darn it, it looks like, these point A and point B connect on the map, but right in the middle of that, there's a place where it's just way too much risk to cross that. So you got to find an alternate route around, and that happens a lot. But so I guess that's another hazard out there too. Whew, like I've been talking about, I'm going to take a little break. I see a ADV with Roscoe here. AZ Hobbies is asking again, group adventure for 2017. Man, I really want to do it. I just got to come up with a place. I'm sorry, guys. If any of you guys know of anyone maybe that has a ranch or a big piece of private land that might be open for letting us meet there, preferably something out in the middle of nowhere, maybe down by Burns or that country down there, let me know. I'm willing to look into anything. So yeah, my hope is to do it. Daniel, hey, my friend. The Mr. 3742 is asking, what is my favorite food to bring with me camping? Well, this is a weird one, because it's not my favorite because it's my favorite flavor, but it's my favorite because it's like that old dependable, that thing that's always there for you, right? And it always performs exactly the same way. It's not fantastic. It's not going to knock your socks off. It's not going to like make you elated or anything like that. But probably my all-time favorite food for overland, adventuring, backpacking, whatever, as I'm going to have to say, is Mountain House meals. And again, it's not my favorite flavor food. It's not my most pleasurable food, but it's one of those foods that's dependable. It's calories. It's good enough. It's decent, usually with a few drops of Tabasco sauce or a little bit of seasoning. You can actually make it taste pretty good. So I'm going to say, based on the amount of it that I consume, the number of years that I've been using it, I'm going to say Mountain House meals. Now, having said that, if you're asking what is my favorite from the standpoint of like, what do I like to eat the most when I'm out there? I really, really like one pot meals. And one of my favorites is like a dirty rice with sausage or chicken or something like that, like a one pot dirty rice, kind of a Cajun flavor style meal. I really like. And another one, and I would say another one that I like is just I'm going to call it like maybe a Southwestern style stew, or I'll take like a Cornish game hen or a half a chicken or something like that, put it in a pot, put a bunch of fresh cilantro, some fresh carrots, some, whatever. I'll slice up some jalapenos and throw them in there, put some potatoes in there, and just make kind of a one pot soup like that. So I really like those. One of the reasons why I like them is because I can hang them. Going back to the bushcraft comment earlier, one of the reasons why I like them is because it's something that I can set by the fire and it can stay warm for a long time, and I can just eat on it. Like I can maybe fix it in the morning so it's ready by lunch. I have lunch off of it. I can have dinner off of it. It's I just like them. Good stuff. So let's see here. How are we doing on time? Oh, 6:40. We got all kinds of time. How are you guys doing? You okay with us going a little longer? Yeah, Will Crawford said Mountain House made right here in Albany. That's right, and that's another reason why I like it. Tristan A. Oh, this is a really hard question. He's asking me, can I survive without my coffee in the morning? Well, I would say that a different way. The question is not, can I survive without my coffee in the morning? The question is, would I want to survive without my coffee in the morning? Think about that a little bit, right? At a certain point, you take away all the qualities of life. And at a certain point, is life really worth living anymore? So I want you to think about that. That's what I would think about. No, man, in all seriousness, love my coffee in the morning, but I can survive without it. And sometimes I do. All right, let's see what Randy H has to say. Drop $5 in the tip jar. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate that. Recently subbed, been watching the backlog videos, watched the Jeep Fire 2. Would a Grand Cherokee work on a meetup adventure? He didn't see any. A Grand Cherokee would definitely work on a meetup adventure. Actually, I think, yeah, I think pretty much any Grand Cherokee would work on a meetup adventure. I'm just thinking, yeah, they've got decent ground clearance. I would say put a good set of tires on it. That's the big thing. We drive some rocky roads, so depending on the location, make sure it has really good rubber on it is the important thing. But I think those would, I don't know, anybody else that's been on the Coyote Works Overland, definitely the first year of that trip, the roads were much, much rougher. The second year, they were actually pretty tame. They wouldn't have been had we gone where I was originally planning, but we ended up with so many rigs, 103 rigs, that I had to kind of reroute to a different spot. So Oregon Mike is asking Will Crawford if he's in Albany. So Will, I don't know if you saw that comment there, but look for Oregon Mike in the comment section, man. You guys should show up. Okay, so Crawdad7's asking, how is the Makita chainsaw holding up? Man, I love that thing. I just used it again on this last trip, cut all the firewood that Matt and Alvino and myself needed for a couple of days out there with it. One set of batteries. I have yet to use up more than one set of batteries on a trip, and I carry a spare set with me. So at this point, man, I've used that thing to clear trees out of the trail. I've used it to cut firewood. I've used it to cut poles for shelter. Man, it's just, I'm super impressed with it. Yeah. Wait, let's see. Fat Matt. All I see is Fat Matt's comment that says showering, same question. I don't know what came before that, so I'm a little nervous to answer that. Hang on, let me see if I can find it. I don't know, Matt. I'm sorry, man. I missed the first part of your question. So I just see showering, ... same question. But yeah, I do shower out there. Like a lot of times in the wintertime like this, I mainly do like kind of a toweling off. I'll use like moist towelettes like dude wipes or, you know, some kind of a good thing like that. Or I'll just make some hot water and with some soap and some hot water and a towel and do it old school. Let's see. Charlie Foxtrot is saying his 1990 Toyota pickup has some recovery hooks, 2 in the front and 1 on the driver's side rear. In your opinion, do I trust those hooks or upgrade to new? You know, man, I'm not sure about on a 1990 Toyota. I know on some rigs, I definitely feel like those recovery points are a little bit suspect, but I feel like for the most part, Toyotas are solid rigs. So I want to say you're probably going to be good with those. But if anybody knows the answer to that question, hit Charlie Foxtrot back. He's wondering if the factory recovery hooks or tow hooks, the 2 in the front, 1 on the driver's rear on his 1990 Toyota are trustworthy. And I'm going to say I think they are, but I haven't specifically seen those ones. DJ Hobbies is here again. Nice, man. Side question. Do you think we will have any more problems on buying 5.56 for the AR with the new year and new president? Sorry for a different type of question. No, man, I'm happy to answer that question. Unfortunately, I don't have a great answer for you. I don't know, man. I don't know. My sense is that it's probably going to get worse before it gets better as far as that goes. I just feel like generally speaking, there's a lot of unrest and a lot of people, you know, especially, you know, pro Second Amendment people are really nervous about what the future holds. And my sense is that's going to translate into people continuing to buy up ammo at unprecedented rates. So yeah, I think it could continue to be, I think the prices could continue to stay high on it. Now, I do think what will happen is within about a year or so of things settling down, like here's my prediction, and hopefully we'll see. This is probably worth the paper it's written on, and I didn't even write it on any paper. If that tells you how much it's going to be worth. But my prediction is it'll take about a year for all this stuff to start evening out, and two things will happen in that year. You know, the people who are hoarding ammo. Which, by the way, if you're one of those people, I mean, I get it. I understand like your desire to stock up a lot of ammo, but I would really ask yourself the question, how much ammo do you really need? Because here's something that I think about, right? Is like, okay, I think I think if I'm going to go train, like a full day of training, I might shoot like, say, 500 to 700 rounds of pistol ammo. If I did a full day of training, say with TS from True North Elite, I don't know if I can say it, man. He's a good dude, you know, tier 1 level serviceman. If I go train with him for a full day, I might shoot like 500 to 700 rounds of pistol ammo. I might also shoot only 350 rounds, right? Depending on what we're working on. And then I might shoot about the same amount of rifle ammo. So the thing is that if you get to that point, and I know everybody's got a number, and I know there's a lot of thought out there that ammo is going to make good trading stock in the event that there was some kind of societal collapse, and I don't disagree with that at all. I just think like we all need some ammo, right? So there's a certain point, like I can tell you guys, like I'm fine with the 5.56 ammo, the 9mm ammo that I have, right? I don't need to buy any more. If there's a bunch of it available at Bi-Mart and it's a decent price, I buy some, right? But at the end of the day, I'm okay with the amount I have. The only limiting factor for me with ammo is how much that I get to continue training in the meantime. So anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out there, man. Think about all the rest of the folks out there who need a little ammo too, and we'll see what happens. But I think within about a year we'll see that the ammo situation start to work itself out. Okay, so I wanted to talk about something. This is another thing that I get a ton of questions about. Real quick, I have in my notes here to do a mid-roll reminder, business items. There is a PayPal donate link in the description of this video down below. If you're watching this not live and you want to throw a couple of bucks towards the content creation here, that is awesome. At Lolo Overland, there are now Coyote Works hoodies. There's Jeep Fire t-shirts. I don't know if Daniel's still on here or Josh from Lolo, but those things are all available at the Lolo Overland website. So if you're looking for, I don't know, I look at that Jeep Fire t-shirt and it gives me a little bit of PTSD, but my brother Daniel over there he insisted that there were some people that wanted that. So hopefully you guys enjoy. So, all right, here's where you guys are going to make your money tonight. I get a ton of questions about winter camping and how to deal with a lot of things winter camping. And one of the things that I get a lot of questions on how to deal with in winter camping is the fuels for your stove, like these butane propane fuels, or in a lot of cases, they're just pure butane fuels. So I'm going to tell you guys tonight is something that is going to revolutionize your winter camping. And I just want you to remember that you heard it here on Coyote Works first, but spread the love out there, man. This is an awesome tip, something I've been doing for years. It's one of those basic things that I've been doing for so long, I can't even tell you, but I'm going to show you guys 3 awesome things that you can do with these hand warmers right here that will revolutionize your winter camping experience, okay? So I'm really trying to pump this up, so hopefully you won't let things down too far. So the first thing is, going back to these fuel cans, a lot of people comment, Craig is asking, have I ever tried the 6.5 Creedmoor in the AR platform? I have not, but I would love to. That's one of my next rifles, is I would love a 6.5 in the AR platform, a long range shooter in the AR platform. All right, so a lot of people ask about how come I have stoves and like my Covea Cupid heater that use these propane butane things. How come I use these in the winter? And the reason why a lot of people ask that is because these notoriously don't work very well as altitude increases and as temperature decreases. So in colder temperatures, a lot of times this butane will not generate sufficient heat in your burner of your stove or the burner of your heater to function like normal. So here's your tip. This is going to change your life with these. These hand warmers right here, I'm convinced this is what they were made for. Look at this. A rubber band and a hand warmer. Put this right on the outside of your bottle. Hook this bottle into your stove, however it goes into the stove. And now this bottle will work. You can use this all the way down into sub-zero temperatures now. So you're going to attach your hot hands hand warmer, and I just use rubber bands, really simple. Slap this hand warmer on here like this. Take my rubber band, boom, and now this is in the stove working. My Covea Cupid heater, only the bottom of the can sticks out of the Cupid heater. So what I do is I take a little piece of tape, put it around there, a little piece of Gorilla Tape, and I put the hand warmer right in the bottom of it like that. So that is your money trick. Now, same thing goes for, you guys are probably really familiar with these kind of butane cans, okay? Same thing. One of these hand warmers, rubber band it right to the side of this, and now you can use this down into sub-zero temperatures. It's amazing how much just this one little heat source taped to the side of the can makes a difference in how this can performs. These hand warmers come in a couple of different sizes. These are the smallest size ones, but if you get the little bigger ones, I would recommend get the little bit bigger size ones for your really hardcore winter camping. Another thing is like your stoves that go on top of these, like your rocket stoves, your MSR rocket stoves, things like that. Another thing you can do is you can take one of these hand warmers and set it down on the table and then just set this fuel canister on top of it. And so if you don't happen to have a rubber band, but you have these hand warmers. All right. So that's tip number 1 for using these hand warmers, right? Tip number 2, how many times are you around camp in the wintertime and you're not hiking, you're not expending a lot of energy out there, and your toes are cold? And you can maybe get them warm for a couple of minutes next to the campfire, but you just have a really hard time keeping your toes cold. And you know how when you're hanging around camp and your toes are cold, it just kind of puts a damper on everything, right? So here's hot hands hand warmer tip number 2. Rubber band a hand warmer right on top of the toe of your boot, right while you're sitting around camp. Oh, I can feel that. That's nice and warm. All right. So obviously this rubber band is not going to last a long time if you're hiking with it or anything like that, but that's not really when your feet get cold. When your feet get cold is when you're sitting around camp. Now, I've tried over the years, like putting these inside, like underneath my foot or whatever. That never works out well. One of the reasons it doesn't work very well is because if you deprive these things of oxygen, they eventually like stop being warm, right? But I find that this way, taping this thing right on the top of the toe of my shoe, even if I'm standing in snow around camp or whatever, keeps my toes nice and toasty. All right, so that's hand warmer tip number 2 for winter camping. Hand warmer tip number 3 for winter camping, and this one is a huge one too, is, and I find that 3 is the magic number, but you know how like when your sleeping bag's cold or you get a little bit chilled, you know how you wake up in the middle of the night and if it's really cold and you get a little bit of a chill, it's hard to get warmed back up. So another thing with these hand warmers is I'll throw like 2 of them down in the foot box of my sleeping bag and then another one up around my chest area. And man, you would not believe how much of a difference that makes and how warm and comfortable it is inside your sleeping bag. So I think between those 3 tips right there, if you don't know about those, I'm pretty sure I invented at least one of those, the one using the hand warmer on here. Someone did tell me, it's been so many years, I cannot even remember where I learned it, but someone did tell me about the one of putting the hand warmer on the toe of your boot, but I don't even remember where. I just know I've been doing it for years, and somebody did tell me that. The fuel cans, though, I came by that honestly. I may not be the only guy that's ever done it, but no one told me that. I figured that one out all on my own. Even a blind squirrel gets an occasional acorn. That's what my Aunt Linda from Kentucky used to say, by the way. So these hand warmers are, I mean, they've gotten so cheap. I think these 2 packs of them right here are 99 cents. So in the wintertime, I'll always have a bunch of these around. There's other things that they're really nice for. Blind Man Overland, my man. Blind Man throws $5 in the tip jar. Thank you, my friend. Oh, he's got another tip. Throwing 2 around your neck with a neck tube or scarf is a game changer. All right, that sounds like a good one to try. I can imagine that. Nice and toasty. You get a couple of these like right by your jugular veins. That'll really warm up your blood flow through your body. That makes sense, man. That's a good tip. Appreciate you sharing that. So a few other things. I usually always carry a little piece of foam with me when I'm out hiking around in the wintertime when everything's covered in snow or it's wet, and always, sitting down, throwing a couple of these down on top of whatever, that heat just kind of soaks up into your whole body. The same thing with the same thing that happens with having them like inside your sleeping bag. Just a couple of these hand warmers generating some warmth, and they work really well like inside a sleeping bag, where they're still getting air. It's an air permeable envelope. They're still getting air. You're moving around a little bit at night. And these things are like, they've gotten really good. They used to only last for like 3 hours or whatever, but like these new ones, like you have these 10-hour ones. So you throw 3 of these in your sleeping bag and you're good to go for a nice little baby, nice sleep like baby, right? All right, what else? Let me look at my list here, make sure that I don't miss anything. Oh, had a pretty interesting thing happen I was going to tell you guys about. So there's I was contacted by a show, Northwestern Outdoors Radio. If you guys can see that. Northwestern Outdoors Radio. They contacted me, did an interview with me for their show. So they do a weekly radio program, airs all over the United States, I guess, on the radio. Really cool host. Guy's name was John. Really awesome guy. Had some good questions. I really enjoyed doing the interview. And it's not one, it's about 10 minutes, and it is going to air on January 9th. I think it'll be posted on their website then if you don't get a radio station that airs that program, or if you don't listen to the radio, like I get a lot of people nowadays don't. But it's Northwestern Outdoors Radio. The website is northwesternoutdoors.com. Maybe I'll put a link down in the description down there, but just remember northwesternoutdoorsradio.com. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Yeah, how that comes out. But I'm kind of excited about it. I'm really am, trying to put out more content and grow my audience a little bit. So really, whatever you guys can do to help with that, share my videos, spread the word, whatever, I really appreciate right now. So that's kind of cool. Maybe that'll expose me to some different people. So that's kind of cool. Let's see what else we have going on here. So I've got the, I have to apologize, guys. I actually finished the video on the detailed overview on Grandpa's truck, Coyote Works Overland Rig 2.0. However, I did not get that published yet. It is all done. I'm thinking I'll publish it probably Tuesday. So that video will be out this week. I just started today. And after I get off this live with you guys, I'll start editing in the video from the maiden voyage of Grandpa's truck. And God, I got to tell you guys, I really enjoyed that trip. I'm excited to show you guys about it. The weather was kind of sketchy. I don't know that it's going to be one of my best videos, but really enjoyed that experience of getting out in the truck, kind of approached things old school. Went back to my roots, did a ground tent, little bit of gear in the back of the truck, really kind of detached my whole camp from the vehicle like I used to do back in the old days. So I'm excited to talk to you guys about that on a couple of different levels. One, it's just fun. I'm enjoying it. It's a different approach than I've done for a while. So something, is always different, is always fun. Daniel Tallman, thank you, my friend. Daniel just threw $5 in the tip jar. Really appreciate that. But the other reason why I'm really excited about the truck is I really want to help kind of show some of you out there that you really don't need that much to get out and really enjoy some super cool backcountry and enjoy that outdoor experience, man. That it's crazy when you guys see how little amount of gear that I took with me on this trip. And keep in mind that it's in the dead of winter, how little gear I took and how much I really enjoyed that trip and really was not uncomfortable at all. So the amount of gear that it takes is minimal. You don't necessarily need, although it's cool and I love my rooftop tent and my rack and all the stuff that goes with my Jeep. You know, I love all that stuff. And even that my setup on my Jeep, as you guys know, isn't as elaborate as a lot of people's. But the truck, you know, going old school like that, I really do feel like there's quite a number of people that hold off on venturing into the backcountry while they're waiting to get like expensive stuff done to their vehicle or expensive gear. And man, you just don't need that much to have a really enjoyable time out there. So I'm looking forward to that. Some more of the old school kind of camping. I do have on my list here, going back to, I forget who it was that asked at the beginning, but I do have on my list here too, coming up, some bushcraft ideas. And it's really weather dependent. I like to do more kind of bushcrafty stuff up in the forest where there's more resources, more different woods to work with, things like that. But I do obviously out in the desert too. Some future, oh God, I wanted to mention this really bad, forgot. So a couple of weeks ago, I don't think it was in last week's live, I think it was the week before that, somebody, and I cannot find his message and I cannot remember who it was, but somebody suggested that I get this book called The Shadow of the Steens. And this is just a book written by a lady who took some time to pull together some of the history of that area out there. But it's really cool. So far, I'm really enjoying this book. And it is to Craig's point, he just left a comment on here. This is all about kind of that area east of the Steens, that history around there, the Divines, the big, you know, ranching and homesteading of that area. And so I'm just starting to get into it, but super cool book. Really appreciate that. I mean, any of you guys that know of like cool historical books from like areas, I would say, you know, really any place in the Pacific Northwest, but obviously my first love is for the desert country. So the deserts of Nevada, Oregon, any like cool history books about that. Another thing I'm going to be doing with the truck, and it may be not be until spring that this starts happening, is I am going to start venturing farther and checking out, going into some other areas, like, for example, down into Nevada and things like that. So for sure, man, definitely hit me up if you guys know of books or history of the area there. Another thing is if any of you know of, or any of you guys have cool historical sites on private land, I always love those opportunities. So I'd like to just kind of have an open invite out there for anyone to message me on Instagram. If you know someone who has a ranch, a private property, or access to something that's kind of historical. And I'd love to start making some more trips looking at, and a lot of times what I can do is I'll do some, if I know a little bit about it, I'll do some research on it, find out some more, share that information with the owner of the property or whatever. But I just like seeing that stuff, and I want to see as much of it as I can before it all goes away. Okay, so Satellite Hunter just asked a question. He's asking, thank you, my friend, by the way, for the contribution. He's asking, what do I consider the appropriate tank capacity or mileage for a weekend outing? So I would say, you know, my average weekend outing is, and I'm going to use not the distance from home, but the distance from a gas station. So my average weekend outing is generally about 250 miles from the last gas station I come to, or the last opportunity to get gas. So on average, I need a capacity or a gas for at least 250 miles. Now, that is about exactly the capacity of my Jeep driving off. If I'm driving off-road, I get about 250 miles out of the tank. So what that means for me is I have to carry extra gas. I need to carry usually, about 10 extra gallons of gas I'm going to have with me. So 250 miles of the average. This last trip that I just got back from was, I think, 116 miles or 119 miles, something like that. And then Jacqueline, hopefully that answered your question, Satellite Hunter, man. So I would say the appropriate tank capacity mileage is at least at a minimum 250 miles. You can do a lot with that. In a perfect world, 400 miles. So if you can find a rig that has a 400-mile capacity, that's in my mind optimal. Jack Bauer is asking, what about the Grizz? I'm off the Grizz, man. I quit the Grizz a long time ago. Well, not a long time ago, back in March. Jacqueline is asking, okay, so a lot of you guys don't know this, but you'll see soon enough that the tent that I used for this first trip out of the truck was a Gazelle tent. Maybe some of you saw it in the Instagram post. So I got the Gazelle T4 tent, which is, I think it's 96 inches by 96 inches. So it's just, I don't know, whatever that is. It seems like it's about 7 feet by 7 feet, or maybe a little bit more than that. Yeah, probably a little bit more than that. Probably closer to 8 feet by 8 feet. I almost got the T3. So the one I got is the T4, and the T3 is a little bit smaller. I'm glad I didn't get the T3 because the way that I set mine up for winter camping with a cot and an extra, a box in there that kind of doubles as my nightstand and a chair and everything, it's a nice size for that, Jackie. So I would say, so one of the reasons, let me back up a little bit. So one of the reasons why I got that kind of a tent was because in the wintertime, when the weather's bad, there are times when I end up kind of being a little bit more bound to my tent or my vehicle. And so what I've done in the past, recent years, has been I lounge up in my rooftop tent and I read, I have books on my iPad or whatever that I read. Oh, look at that. Cool Coyote Works sticker. Yeah, those are available from Lolo Overland too. The rooftop tent. But the problem with spending a lot of time in the rooftop tent is, they're really best for sleeping and maybe lounging around a little bit, but they're not great for spending an extended period of time in it. So I wanted that space and that capacity. I wanted more of the feeling of a room. So definitely the T4 tent provides that. I think the T3 Gazelle would be a little bit small. I think it would feel kind of claustrophobic with very much gear in there. Now, having said that, like Jacqueline says, she has the T3. Having said that, if you're a smaller person, like I'm 6'2", right? I'm a decently tall guy, so I need that headroom and everything in there. So, yeah, let's see. Oh, that's interesting. I don't even know how the hell to say this name. Batty MXB. It just left a comment. He hated his rooftop tent. I have run into people before that just don't like rooftop tents. Not too many, but there are a few. Yeah, and he says he loved the convenience, but just hated the up and down. Yeah, and I have heard that before. Some people that have dogs that want their dog to be in their tent with them, like that's not a good program to have a rooftop tent way up on top of the vehicle that you have to try to get your dog in and out of. Yeah, so Jackie says she loves the T3. She has that, and she says she loves it. It's a perfect size for her to hang out in. All right, guys, what else? What did I miss here? So I'm gonna give a shout out to the guy that turned me on to the book, Shadow of the Steens. All right, I thought I would tell you guys a little bit about future camp talks, but also again remind you, I breezed through the comments on last week's camp talk before I went live here, but if you guys think of any questions, leave them in the comments of this camp talk video down below. That's where I'll go to look, or one of the places I'll go to look for potential questions. But here's the thing is, this group of us that gets together on these camp talk live videos, like we're actually a small group relative to my whole audience. Like right now, I think there's 325 people on here. So, this is an opportunity for you guys that tune into this to kind of get something a little bit more, a little bit different than what comes out in the rest of my videos. I kind of look at this, and I know I've said this before, but I kind of look at this like this is our core group hanging out here, right? This is me and the guys that, we're all the and gals, sorry about that, all of us that are the closest, or this is our time to hang out together and get to visit and everything. So you guys leave your comments and your questions down below in these videos and these Camp Talk videos every week, and understand, Craig, thank you, man. Oh, you have that book, Shadow of the Steens. Cool, man. Yeah, I just started it, but I haven't got very far into it, but I'm really excited about getting some more tips on the history of that area. But anyway, man, so if you guys have questions, the place where, again, the best chance for me to see them is either during this video in a super chat, or down in the comments below this video here. You guys are the ones in these videos and these live videos that I want to talk to the most. So I'll pull questions from other places if they come up a lot, but my first priority is to make sure that you guys get the information that you want and that we all get to hang out with these videos. So Gary Max, thank you, my friend. I really, really appreciate it, man, for sure. Thanks for the content. Yeah, you're welcome. And another thing I want to tell you guys is I really enjoyed this this last trip with Alvino along, Alvin the Texan, that you guys have seen. So if you haven't figured this out yet, one of the big things with me, one of my core motivators in life is wanting to inspire other people to get to experience some of the cool stuff that I love about the outdoors out there. And so I love seeing people start from nothing, from no experience, dip their toes in the water and slowly get more comfortable and everything out there. So the sharing the videos and everything. So a huge part of my motivation is when I hear from you guys that you have found some inspiration in some of my videos, or you're going on an adventure as a result of something that you saw in one of my videos. Like, that is a huge inspiration. And then obviously the whatever financial support that you guys do is a huge help too. That just that much easier for me to be out there more, doing more content. Real quick, let's see, I got a couple rolling by here. So Gary Max, thank you. Really appreciate it. After that, Adam Davidson popped up and asked if I ever take a telescope out on my adventures. And I haven't ever, but two things I want to say about that. One is there's a place not very far out of Bend called Pine Mountain, and they have the Pine Mountain Observatory on top of it. It's really easy to get there. Look on the internet, look at their website to find out when they're open, but that is an awesome place to go look at the stars up there. I haven't ever taken a telescope out with me. I've got a really good buddy, Doc. My friend Doc he moved out of Central Oregon, but he's really into the stars and the meteor showers and things like that. And I would love to get together with Doc and take a telescope out sometime. I think that'd be really cool. Let's see, St. Louis Arch, another contribution. Thank you. Just says many thanks for your work. Love for your work. Really appreciate hearing that. Really appreciate the contribution, man. Love seeing you guys. I see some people on here interacting in the comments. That's awesome. That's another thing that I really want to do what I can, is to be a catalyst for people to meet each other and do this. I know one of the coolest things that happened at the first, and at the second, and the reason why I really want to find a way to keep the Coyote Works group overland trips going is for the sense of community and the connections, the opportunity that I have to bring a bunch of you together so you guys can meet each other and become friends and go on adventures together and share knowledge. Like that is so awesome. Like, it's been so cool to see friendships blossom and see guys that met for the first time on one of those trips now going on trips together, going down to Utah. Just now we've got I've got Camping Mike and his canine buddy meeting up with Wendell, another really good friend of mine, down in Arizona. Those guys met together on a Coyote Works Overland trip. Fred Ball, thank you. Really appreciate it, my friend. Thank you for the tip. And so anyway, so Fred asked, how much time do I spend setting up for my pictures when I'm in the field? So, that's an interesting question. I'm not a professional photographer. I don't actually even really know anything about photography, right? I try my best to take pictures of things that look cool to me, that I appreciate out in the field. So I really spend very little time setting up for shots. Now, what that means is I get very few really good pictures too. So generally speaking, every time I come back in from the field, Fred, I'm going through my phone and my camera and deleting, dozens of pictures that I took that just weren't very good. But occasionally, I'll snap a couple of shots. Like I really like finding something, and then I'll hold it up and I'll take a picture of it, like with something in the background. And so sometimes when I'm doing that, I'll hold it up, I'll snap a picture, and then I can see in the picture that the light's not very good. So I'll change the angle and let the light come in at a different angle. I'll do a lot of that where I'll just kind of experiment around. I'll walk around something and try to see it from different angles and see how the light looks from different angles. Craig saying he might do a close to home trip soon near the Buena Vista, Colorado area. And man, Craig, send me a message if there's stuff out there that you think that I should see and that I would enjoy exploring and that you guys, the rest of the audience would enjoy seeing too. Australia in the house, Lola Overland. Hey, Lola Overland, is that Josh or Daniel? I always have to ask, man. It could be either one of you guys on there. I love the comments. You guys are rock stars. All right, that's my brother Daniel on there, man. Yeah, and Daniel, I wanted to tell you, brother, too, right on for all you've been doing for Josh and this time, man. He's lucky to have you around right now, man. You've been an awesome addition to the team, good friend. I'm looking forward to us having many, many years of adventure together. Monkey with a Wrench is saying I should come to Northern Utah. Some cool stuff out there. Pepperjack Records, Sydney, Australia. That's cool. Oh, I wonder if I can find it really quick. I just found a new YouTube channel in Australia, and I don't know. You guys know that I don't do a lot. I don't have a lot of time to watch YouTube, but every once in a while I do jump on. And I found this really cool channel. I think it's Tim Rumble. Let's just see. I'll see if I recognize this guy here. Oh, sorry about this, guys. It's going right in the ads.
Just gonna have a quick look around. See if I can't. It's only a matter of months, really.
Yeah. Yeah, this guy, Tim Rumble, man. He's down in Australia. He does these little kind of overlanding trips with his wife. Sometimes they're multiple days. He doesn't have a very big channel. He has 1,003 1.03K subscribers. So he doesn't have very many subscribers or anything like that. Brand new channel, but I just really enjoy the dude's laid back style. He's out there with, I'm assuming it's his wife. He's out there with this lady and she's cool too. She brings some nice character to it. They're laid back. It reminds me of an Australian version of, this is what I think my other buddy, Black Pearl Voyager, when he's out with his wife, his videos remind me a little bit of this. But man, really, guys, this will be a cool experience, man. You should go check out Tim Rumble. So that's his name, Tim Rumble, on YouTube, and leave comments on there and tell him that you heard about him from the Coyote Works channel. He's a guy that I'd love to at least make contact with, and I think he's a small enough channel that if enough of you guys go sub him and contact him, I think he'll notice who I am. But I would love to make contact with him. That's what I really need to go into another country is I need a couple of friends there. I need someone who knows the country and can pick out places and a route and stuff like that. That's like how I went all over South Africa, was by meeting friends there. And then one friend would lead to another friend, would lead to work, would lead to another safari, would lead to another hunt, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm telling you guys, and I think you'll really enjoy it too. And I'd be curious to hear if you do enjoy it. But Tim Rumble on, let's just go to the home page. So he calls his channel True Blue Overland. That's what he has just in his picture there. But his channel name is Tim Rumble. Let's see. Let me see if we can get this close up here so you can see that channel name. Huh? Yeah. So cool. Shout out to him. Really been enjoying his videos. And I think, guys, that's going to be about a wrap here. Oh yeah, Scott Greer says he's on his channel, and yeah. All right, guys. So man, I think it's about time for me to have some dinner. And one thing I did do is I did get a new heater. I was using the Mr. Buddy heater in my T4 tent, and it was not quite, didn't quite have the output that I would like for that big of a tent. So I got the Big Buddy heater. So yeah, a couple of different pieces of gear that I'm experimenting around with. Most everything that I put in the truck, though, I have to tell you guys, just came out of my garage. It's just old gear that I've had for years and years. So all right, man, Nate Zoinks, Lola Overland, Craig Holmes, Scott Greer, PDX Trailer Guy, man, thanks for joining in. Dirt Bandit Outdoors, good to see you, my friend. Dirt Bandit Outdoors is going to turn me on to some cool homesteads. We're going to go metal detecting. So you're going to see us doing some metal detecting videos together. So in the meantime, go check out Dirt Bandit Outdoors channel too. And let's give him some motivation to find some really cool spots to take me metal detecting. Other than that, man, you guys are awesome. I know I tell you this every week, but I just feel like I have the most amazing group of people that I get to interact with through my channel, man. I really feel like I'm the lucky one to have had this as a vehicle to meet all of you guys and everything. I hope you had an amazing holiday. You got to do stuff that you love. Bill Ray, you're welcome, my friend. Thank you. And let's have an awesome 2020, everyone. Or no, an awesome 2021. Happy New Year. It's hopefully, I mean, it's not going to have to work very hard to be better than the last one, but it's going to be a good year, and we're going to have some fun and some adventure this year. So that's all for this one, guys. Cheers. Coyote Works out.